Bullying. 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 Yeah.
Till when?
Till 8:30.
You're just going on the top shelf. Very good.
Okay, and then I'll go back to sharing my screen. Okay, is that what's showing up now, Domingo?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm just going to test it. See if it moves to the next screen. Okay, that was a test. And another 2 minutes before we start.
Okay. We have some really great questions in the Q&A.
Oh, great.
And don't forget, as we continue on the session and as questions start to pop into your brain, please feel free to add them to our Q&A section, and we will be more than happy to answer them at the end of the presentation.
Quick question on my end. Is there any way for me to see the questions here on this screen?
I can do a share screen, but I'm not sure if they can see you then.
The questions are on the app too, correct?
Yes, yes, you can go into the app and you can see them there.
Alrighty.
And we're going to begin. Hi, good evening. My name is Susan Leshin, and I am the Senior Director for Patient Program and Volunteer Services for the Marfan Foundation, VEDS, and LDSF. I also want to introduce you to Dominga No, who is our graphics and marketing manager. And
Hi, everyone.
She will be posting in the chat box during this session. Welcome to week 2 of the International E3 Summit, educating, empowering, and enriching our community. Brought to you by the Marfan Foundation and its divisions, the Loeys-Dietz Syndrome Foundation, the VEDS Movement, and our partners in Europe at Versern. We thank you for making this summit truly historical. It is by far the Foundation's largest event, with nearly more than 27,000 registrants from more than 70 countries. Not only do we come from all over the world, but you also represent several different conditions. We are also thrilled that more than 300 medical professionals are joining us to hear from the leading experts on these conditions. We are very grateful to our presenting sponsors, Brigham and Women's Hospital and American Communication Construction. Before we start the presentation, I want to let you know that the International E3 Summit is a forum to provide an open discussion of issues related to genetic, aortic, and vascular conditions. Opinions stated in each of the talks are those of the speakers and not necessarily those of the Marfan Foundation or Basern. If you hear differences of opinion from the speakers and want further clarification, please contact our help center at marfan.org/E3ask. Be patient as the volume is high during the summit. Today we are fortunate, I'm sorry, so sorry. Okay. Today we are very fortunate to have Denis Estimon, who is the director of Be Strong, with us today to present on bullying and how to deal with bullying and become a stronger force for yourself. Before we move on to the presentation, I'd like to remind you to give us your feedback when the session is over. I'm going to show that slide again after the session is over. Thank you. And without further ado, Denis.
Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. So a little bit about myself. My name is Denis Estimon. I do serve here as director of Be Strong. Be Strong, we are a national organization, and we are based here in Deerfield Beach, Florida. And tonight, I'm very honored to be able to share with you all, and thank you all of you who tuned in tonight, and the more that are probably going to be watching this later on. And the stuff that we're going to talk about today, they're not, it's not always the easiest conversations, but sometimes it's the conversations that are not always the easiest, but that are always the most meaningful. So today, my goal for this, this short time that I'm here with you, and the reason why I didn't want to bring up a presentation or a formal PowerPoint slide is because I really just want to speak to you. One, with the goal of encouraging you. One, encouraging you. Two, informing you. And three, giving you some applicable tips that you can take after this session. And the way I'm going to do that is, one, I'm going to share a few stories with you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our organization, some of the work that we're doing across the world, really. And really, by the end, I'm going to give you some applicable tips, and then we'll go into Q&A. So I'll just dive right in. So again, my name is Denis Estimon. I serve as the director of Be Strong, but part of my story is that at the age of 6, my mother, my sister, and myself, we actually moved to the United States from Haiti. And okay, that might seem normal, but it's very difficult when you move to a new country when one, like I was 6 at the time. So all I've known my whole life up to this point were people that looked like me, people who talked like me, people with my same skin color. So imagine, going to a place like Boca Raton, Florida, which is, a retirement destination. So first of all, when I got here, I'm like, well, where the heck am I? Like, I had no frame of reference to the environment in which I was in. And not only that, when you go to a place where you don't speak the same language, but now, as some of you know, but now you look different. And I remember, my first day going to school, I didn't look like anybody else. I didn't talk like anybody else. I didn't dress like anybody else. So that when you look different, that when you talk different, that people will treat you different. And my first day of school was not even just my first day, but to be honest, the first couple years were very difficult, trying to assimilate to a culture where people, kind of got together on more like people came together based on, how they looked, or, whose parents knew who. And when you're coming and you don't have any frame of reference to that, it can be very difficult. So, growing up for me, it was experiencing social isolation. It was experiencing loneliness. It was, sometimes not even valuing my own skin color because nobody else around me looked like me. And so the skin that I was in felt more like a burden to be in than a gift. And I experienced that mostly through my whole life. And really, the only positive thing that I had about not really positive, but the only thing that always helped me though was that I was very resilient. I was the kid that, hey, if you said something to me, I'd say something right back. And all would seem well, but even though on the outside everything looked like it was great, in reality on the inside was where I was hurting. And that's why it's so quick, as many of you know, not to judge a person by the outside. Even if their issue might not be apparent. Because as human beings, we all have things. And here's the first thing that you have to know. As human beings, every single human being on this planet has something that they're struggling with. Every human being on this planet has something that they're dealing with. And although it might not be easily seen, I believe that for that person in that situation that they find themselves in, it could be just as nerve-wracking sometimes. So that's the first thing. But for me, it was apparent that, hey, you tossed me in a classroom, I'd stick out. And not only that, but then when you grow up in a school system where you become, you become the butt end of every joke. Or for example, like when I was in school, they turned the lights off and people would be like, hey, where's Denis? So for me, my experience in school was every single time when they were about to do a presentation, I'd actually step out and ask to use the restroom just to try to avoid, not facing that. And hey, sometimes the worst part is sometimes it didn't even come from just the students, but it also came from my teachers. And growing up, that was very hard. And even to this day, many times it's very hard to communicate those emotions. But one thing that I've learned over time and with the work that we're doing with Be Strong, when we talk about this topic of bullying, and Be Strong, the organization I work for now, we are a national bullying prevention organization. And the reason why we use the word prevention with intention. We don't say that we're anti-bullying. And even though, this shirt right here says stop bullying, we actually shifted our language. And what we said is, and this might not seem very encouraging at first, but by the time I'm done speaking, you'll understand what I'm saying. In reality, you cannot really stop bullying. All right? You cannot stop bullying. And also in life, you can never control another person's opinion about you. And these are all things that you have to know. One, you can't stop bullying. And two, you can't control another person's opinion of you. And for me, once I realized that, and let me tell you what's happening in our school systems today. In our school systems today, and we have the research backed by the CDC that shows us that we continue to push this messaging of stop bullying, stop bullying, stop bullying. But we study shows that it does not resonate with people. In fact, I believe it was in 2015, over 18% of students in the U.S. in middle school, admitted that they have considered suicide at one point, right? And we hear these statistics, and for me it seems like there's a new organization popping up every single day, but we're not seeing these issues resolved. And in the same way, that's why my initiative, We Dine Together, I started it in high school. And you might be saying, okay, what's We Dine Together? So now you know that there's this kid, myself, this Haitian kid that comes from Haiti to the United States. He looks different. He talks different. People treats him different. And he goes throughout his whole school year being picked at, right? But then in high school, I had an opportunity. Years have gone by, and I started to actually create more connections with people. And then when I started creating connections with people, I actually started building a little community around me. And again, I was always a resilient child. So in high school, now the kid that didn't know anybody, the kid that had no friends, actually started to have some friends. And, you know, I started playing some sports and different things like that, but that's not the point. But in high school, I saw an opportunity to do something. And it was 2016. And in 2016, again, we were having, you know, a lot of issues with police brutality, or, you know, like things like the Pulse nightclub shooting, all of these different things that were happening in our nation. And I said to myself, I said, what is going on? It seems like everything's spiraling. It seems like the suicide rates are going up. It seems like the bullying rates are going up, but yet there's all these organizations. And then at that moment, I decided to do something. I knew that if I can, one, get people together, specifically students, if I can get people together over a meal, to confront our conflicts, to cultivate connections, and to create a community, if I can get them together in a room and actually spend time with each other, no matter what they look like, I believe that we can form a community in our school. So what did we do? We went and we just started pulling, you know, some different kids from the hallways, and we had pizza, and we put up some flyers. We say, hey, we have food, come eat. And what happened is you saw so many students all throughout, you know, from 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, you know, seniors were coming into this room. These were Black people. These were white people. These were Christians. These were atheists. These were people of all different colors. These were people of all different shapes and sizes, all coming into a room and dining together. And yes, that might be a simple concept, but let me tell you what it was really doing to our school atmosphere. What it did to our school atmosphere is, now if you are a student that is coming into a new school, and I guarantee you everybody that's in listening to me right now have had the experience of being the new person. Every single person in here had, and then some people didn't have a great experience. Another person might have a better experience, but we all have had that experience of being the new student, or even the new employer anywhere, right? I like to say it this way, that we all have a migration story. And in that migration story, there's always conflict. So what we said is, hey, we know that there are going to be new students that are coming to the school. So we want to remove the tension for them. And we want them to know that there is a safe space, and that there is a place in the school that they can go to, where people are waiting to meet them, where people are waiting to connect with them, where people are waiting to share a meal with them. And so that idea that we started, you know, kids were coming in left and right. And not only did we do that, you know, in our regular club meetings, then on those days when we weren't meeting in the classroom, what we would do is we would go back out into the courtyard and sit with those who didn't have anybody to sit with. And now here's what we said. You know, our organization has been everywhere from 60 Minutes to Super Bowl commercials and a whole bunch of different things. And the whole time, the thing that I always try to portray is, when we were going up to somebody, it was never, hey, do you want to sit with me? It was always a, hey, can I sit with you? Because we all know what it feels like to feel powerless. We all knows what it feels like to not have a voice. We all know what it feels like to be the victim. So one of the things that we strive to do is we tried to put those who felt like they didn't have a voice, those who felt like they were marginalized, those who felt like that they didn't have anybody they can connect with. We wanted to put them at the power seat. And now maybe you're a parent and you're listening to this today. one of the best thing that you can do for your child, and I'm not telling you how to parent, let me be very clear. One of the best things that you can do for your child is to help put them at the power seat. Meaning that, hey, when you speak to them, don't speak to them as if they are a victim. Yes, I know there are many challenging things that are going on in their life right now. There are many things that are happening that you can't control. But here's what I always say, that life is not always about learning to avoid the storms, but it's actually about learning to dance in the rain. And see, what we're doing is we're teaching kids, hey, you're not a victim, you are a victim. You're not a victim, you are a victor, excuse me. And that, yes, you have pain in your life, but if you are able to fuel that pain, right? If you are able to take that conflict that has happened to you, what you realize is everybody has conflict in some area. So now you can actually become an advocate for another person that finds themselves in that same situation. Okay, now you're saying, you're probably thinking in your mind right now, okay, that sounds good, Dennis, but like, what's the practical side of this? Like, yeah, I get it, kumbaya, all of this stuff, let's dine together. What's the practical side? The practical side is this. The practical side is we know that the past efforts have not been working, like I said before. In fact, the way Be Strong started was by a couple by the name of Roy and Lisa Moore. And Roy and Lisa Moore received a phone call from their child's school saying that they were afraid that their child was going to end his own life. And, this is, a relatively good family, like the type of family that eats dinner with each other. So they couldn't understand the trauma that this child was going through and where it even came from. And at that moment, in a moment of hopelessness, they started looking for different resources and they couldn't find any. They started looking for different resources to help their child. And ultimately what they had to do is they had to send him away to a facility for 2 months to get treated. And their heart broke because while they had the financial means to do so, they realized that most parents in the United States do not have that financial means. Thus why they created Be Strong. So now Be Strong, what's the approach that we take? When I talk about being a victor and not being a victim, so what we do is we have our Be Strong resilience curriculum. So we don't say that, hey, stop bullying, but we teach this concept of transformative resiliency. And what transformative resiliency simply means is using your adversity, using your pain, using the things that you've gone through to actually catapult you to where you want to be, right? I'll give you an example again from my own story. My story is I was a kid that sat alone. But then later in my story, when I said, hey, I'm going to make the decision, I'm going to make the choice not to see myself as a victim, but to see myself as a victor. And what I did is I confronted my own conflict, I cultivated connection, and thus I created a community. And now what happened, the second time that I sat with someone, it was a kid by the name of Gerald. And I went up to him and I said, and me, like, I may seem like an extrovert, but trust me, I am not. I am far from an extrovert, okay? Like, I'm the type of guy that can sit by myself, like, for hours, and like, that's where I thrive. That's where I feel like me, But I go up to this kid and I say, hey man, what's up? Like, can I sit with you? And literally, he looks at me and he looks at his food. I said, hey man, what's up? He looks at me, he looks down at his food. And then I did something there. I went and I sat down anyway. And as I sat down, I started trying to engage him in conversation. Nothing at all. And okay, school bell rings, but I did something. I went back the next day. Hey man, can I sit with you? Still try to have a conversation. Nothing. Went back the next day. By the end of the week, he asked me a question. He said, Dennis, why are you sitting with me? I said, dude, we're friends. And in the middle of the courtyard, he starts bawling. And let me tell you, our school was over 3,000 students in the school who all ate lunch at the same time. And then he tells me that in 3 years of being in this school, I was the first person to ever sit with him. I was the first, in 3 years of being in that school, I was the first person to ever sit with him. Now when we look at the suicide rates in our country, when we look at the bullying rates in our country as they continue to increase, when we look at the loneliness rates, because hey, if we can be honest, this is not just something for the children, but this is also something for us. And what happens when you get onto an airplane? When you get onto an airplane, they tell you, hey, before you try to put somebody else's mask on, you got to put your mask on. You would never be able to fill from an empty jar. So that's why I'm also speaking to you, right? And so what we did is we brought him back into the club, and we brought him back into the club. And as we brought him back to the club, he started engaging with people, and we had this community that was formed. And then next week, he came back in with 2 people, and he said, hey, I found these guys in the courtyard, and I brought them back in. Do we see this? Do we see the power of transformative resiliency? Do we see the power in taking somebody and say, hey, I actually see the leader in you. I see that the potential that you have to actually help other people while you're going through while you are in the middle of your mess. I see the best in you. I believe that the best is still ahead for you. I don't believe that you are a victim, but I believe that you have unlimited potential within you. And what we see is that he brought 2 other kids into this club, when 2 weeks ago, he was the child that wouldn't even engage in conversation. Another story, we have a girl in Texas. Her name is Teresa. She was one of our leading state reps. And same similar story. She was planning to end her own life. And what happened is her mom actually brought her an ad from Be Strong and said, hey, I think you should do this. And she did it very reluctantly. And in the second week of creating her We Dine Together club at her school, a girl came into the club, and then the following week she came back and she stood up and said, hey, last week I was planning to end my own life, but because of this club, I decided not to. Because of this club, I decided not to. And what we're seeing is stories like that all across the country. And again, I keep repeating it, that the past systems that we have been using is broken. So one thing that I want to tell you is before you're quick to correct somebody, connect with them. Did you hear me? Before you correct somebody, connect with them. And this is how you reach the younger generation. What I mean by that, before you're quick to give them advice, before you're quick to tell them what to do, connect with them and understand and try to get an understanding of how they feel. Because sometimes we can be so quick to speak, but we have to step back and ask ourselves, were we actually really listening to what they were saying? And then the second thing I would say is, while you're dealing with any child or any person that finds themselves in a space that really they can't control, don't be just so quick to inform, but be quick to inspire. What do I mean by inform? So for example, traditionally most bullying presentations will go through a slide deck giving you the list of all the statistics from the CDC on bullying, all the statistics from the CDC on suicide. But in reality, I can give you statistics all day. I can give you information all day. But if I don't inspire you to take action, then what we're doing is we're listeners, but we're not doers. So in the same way right now, I'm trying to encourage you. I'm trying to inspire some things into you. I encourage you, as you speak to children, speak to the side in themselves that they haven't, that they never saw before. Because ultimately, the way I got to where I was is because somebody's spoken to me and saw me and say, "Hey, I see you encouraging people. You know, I see you doing big things." And I think that, hey, like I was saying before, as we were starting this call, like, again, we can't stop bullying, but we can stop the effects of it. We can't control what somebody does, but we can control how we receive it. So now, what does that look like? So now I told you all that. So now how do we do that? So Be Strong. One, we have our Be Strong Live tour. And in our live tour, we basically do what I just did, and we inform you, and we also teach you on social, emotional, and intelligence. And then not only that is we provide you with some tools that you can take back. One of those tools is our Be Strong app. Our Be Strong app. Our Be Strong app has anything from 911 text line, safe groups. A student can actually put in their zip code. And after this call, I would encourage all of you guys to go download that and share it with the people that you know. This is a completely free app. We make no money from this. We are a full-on nonprofit, so we make nothing from this app. So this app, you can go in and you can put in your zip code, and like our system will actually pull up all of the free nonprofit and local resources that are in your area. Now you might be saying, okay, Dennis, why is this important? Because now I just talked to you about inspiring the child. I talked to you about encouraging them, but now it's going from encouraging, now it's going from speech, and now it's going to action. So now what are we going to do is we're going to put help at your fingertips. Because another messaging that we always push out to students is this, that, hey, if you're going through something, tell somebody. Yes, that is the wisest thing to do. But studies will show that 3 out of 4 students will actually never tell somebody. So traditionally what we've been doing is we've been pushing this messaging to students. We've been telling them to do this, but the studies show that, hey, they will never do it, no matter how many times you tell them to. But what you can do is you can let them know of the resources that are available, like the Be Strong app. And then second, the next thing that I would say is nominate them to actually be a Be Strong state rep. Again, this is free. And all this is, and from a month to month, this is what our state reps do. Some of our state reps actually create their We Dine Together calls, their We Dine Together clubs in their school. But really, they work in 3 key areas every single month. Now we're still talking about how to not see yourself as a victim, but to see yourself as a victor. And using the things that you're going through, using the challenges that you're facing to actually help somebody else out. So our reps really work in 3 key ways every single month. One is advocacy, right? So our reps, and we help them with this, and we create the package for them, but our reps on a monthly basis are sending out messages to their local and civic officials, telling them about the work that they are doing in their community to bring about a sustainable change. Imagine you being a congressman or woman, and you're getting a letter on a monthly basis from a 13-year-old girl that at one point she was planning to commit suicide. Now she's encouraging other people not to do it. Think about the power of that. So that's advocacy. 2, it's acts of kindness. So acts of kindness, and so what a student will do, it can be anything from going to your school or going in your community and chalking up the sidewalks with positive messaging, or it can be going to your local area and baking cookies for your policemen, or if schools are back, COVID, if schools are back, it can be, hey, writing positive letters to your teachers and your counselors, or it can be going up or setting up a club meeting where you can actually encourage anybody that doesn't feel safe to get together in the school environment. And then awareness is where they just create a short video telling us and their other fellow reps about the work that they're doing in their states. And so the reason why I tell you all of this is because if we are truly if we are truly going to take a step to making a sustainable difference, we have to look at history and we have to see the things that haven't been working. We have to look at the messaging that hasn't been working. And we have to not see students or the child as a victim, but you have to see it and you have to speak it into them that they can do more, that they can imagine. And that, hey, on the whole entire planet, there's not one person that's like them. On the whole entire planet, there's not one person with their DNA. So they're not, so when we're younger, we think that being different is a bad thing. But as you begin to grow older, let me speak for myself. As I begin to grow older, I see the beauty in my diversity. I see the beauty in the fact that I'm different. I see the beauty in the fact that I don't look like everybody else. I see the beauty in the fact of that. And that's what we have to encourage, and we have to also encourage students with this, that, hey, life is tough, but so are you. Life is tough, but so are you. So that's all I have from that aspect. I know that we have a lot of questions, so I wanted to leave some room so we can answer those questions, and I can dive deeper into some of these things that we just spoke about.
Okay, thank you so much, Dennis. That was fantastic. I did not know about all the resources that were available through Be Strong, and how it could help people in our community connect to each other and to other people who are having similar issues. We also at the foundation have a program, it's our mentor program, which is kind of similar, where if people sign up for it, and you can find it on our website, I think Domingo might be putting up the link in our chat room, and also through our VEDS program, we have 2 programs where kids can connect with others and have a mentor, either someone older or somebody who's been through a similar issue rather, and they can each learn and support each other. So I love what you guys are doing. I think that's amazing. We do have a couple of questions, some of which you answered, but I will bring them up anyway. One of the first one is that, what about kids who have been bullied into the belief that they can't reach out to others first? They don't know if they can be a victor.
Can you say that question one more time?
Sure. You had spoken about how kids should go out and make themselves the victor and take that first step, which I think is great. But what about kids who sometimes don't feel that they can take that first step? That going up to somebody who is alone is hard for them because they might feel rejected even by that person who might be alone.
Right. That is a great question, and that is a question that even some of our reps are asking. And I think the simple answer is that it will always look different depending on the person, depending on the case. But I think the key idea of that thought is that teaching the child that, hey, you don't necessarily have to be the child or the person that's going up to somebody in a school club meeting. You don't have to be the kid like myself who will walk around the courtyard and talk to people. But I would say that if you need to know one thing, is you just need to know that you are unique and you have unlimited potential. And I would encourage any person listening, hey, encourage your child or any young person in your life with that. Because again, life, like I said before in that closing statement, that life is tough, so now, and that's why we created our organization in a way where it's flexible. So again, like not every single student is going out into the courtyard, but what we're doing is we're helping students being kind intentionally. And what you'll realize is, as you begin to almost step outside of yourself, and you start finding ways that you can actually serve and impact other people, I actually believe it goes back to you. But all in all, like let's say if it is that case where the child, and we see this all the time. Let's say if it is a person that's that doesn't think that, you know, that they're a victor, that they don't see that light at the end of the tunnel. I think it's your role, as the voice into their life, to bring that out of them, or to constantly encourage them, or to speak into the fact that, hey, you know, you are unique, and that, hey, sometimes people won't always understand you. But like I said before, what did I say before? I said that we are all dealing with some type of conflict, whether it's visible and not visible. I actually had this conversation with a young person. So we were speaking at a school locally, and you know, and I was speaking at the school, and the child came up to me after, and he said, "Hey, I loved everything that you talked about, but I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I am the victor. Like, like I feel like if I tried to do something, people would just pick at me more. You know, I feel like, you know, even in my own home situation, I can't be that person." And all I simply said is, hey, you might have a conflict that's visible to people, but other people and the people that's in your life, you have to know that they have their own conflict that they're hiding as well. So it's going to look different from everybody. And I really wish I had a concrete answer. But like for me, it always goes back to showing up in that person's life. Maybe they don't see themselves in that position today, but maybe they might see themselves in that position 2 weeks, 2 years, or even 20 years, you know, from now. But it's about you being that voice in their life, constantly showing up and speaking to that matter. And and I know I'm taking too long to answer this, and if you want to break it down for them, sometimes I go through this. I say, hey, name one person on this planet with your DNA. Not one. Even if you have an identical twin. Me, I personally believe that's your uniqueness in the world. That there is nobody else like you. That there is nobody with, you know, your identity. You know, and I think that, you know, in a world where everybody wants to be the same, or where everybody wants to act like, you know, they're the same, but I really believe everybody is looking for their individuality. And hey, to understand that, again, I keep saying it because I just really want people to understand that life is tough, but so are you. And in addition to that, and if you can't do that, just start off by reading the resources, you know. Start off, you know, and on our website, and I only highlighted a few. On our website, we have a whole library of, you know, SEL tools for students that they can actually go through, or you can go through with them. So yeah, it's going to vary from case to case, but I really believe it's about continually showing up and speaking to the best in them. I hope, you know, that answered it. I just wanted to make sure in that answer I covered everybody.
I think you've covered a lot of the other answers, but I'm going to read the questions anyway for, you know, some of it you may have covered. What is the best way to stop or handle someone with a toxic personality who feels they need to inject with unsolicited advice or commentary on your body or life choices?
That is such a good question. Again, I'll start off with the simple answer that unfortunately you can't force anybody to stop in anything. So that's one, the simple answer. To the second side of that is, if it is a child and if this person is coming back repeatedly, that is harassment. And I think that should be something that, you know, that's reported. And then 3, the other side of that too, it's that, you know, like I say this a lot, that life is sometimes like playing a game of cards, right? That, you know, sometimes you get a good hand, and unfortunately, a lot of times you don't have a good hand. But what I've learned is that, you know, it's not always the people that have the best hand that win, but it's the people that know what to do with their cards. In the same way, you know, you might have things that might happen to you. You can't always control the outcomes, but you have to control your outlook. And we know this, that we know that hurt people hurt people. So oftentimes, let's say if somebody's obnoxiously making a comment about you, or someone's constantly trying to say something, maybe that may be, and there's actually some study that actually proved this, so it's not just a maybe, it's not just my ideas, but maybe that there might just be something wrong with them. I have never met a confident, strong person that went and picked on other people. Confident and strong people build other people up. So if someone's trying to pick on me, it's actually a very indication that they're not secure with themselves. So now I actually feel bad for them.
Right. I agree with you. I really think that it would be great if we could prevent bullying altogether, but in my experience, that seems impossible. So my question is, for after bullying happens, what recommendations do you have for the healing process and to move forward from it?
Yeah, these are great questions. Um, these are really great questions, and the reason why some of these questions are often tricky to answer is because you have to, like, I have to be careful never to just give one concrete answer, because there are so many different people listening. There are people with so many different experiences. So I try to generalize so it can apply to everybody. Again, like I said, for the most part, I always think if it's a harassment situation that you have to report that. That's one. And now, how do you deal with how do you deal with the recovery part of that? I think first it's I'm going to give the short answer, but it's realizing that recovery is a journey. Recovery is a process. Recovery is not something that's going to take sometimes a year or two. Sometimes it might take a couple of years to get over something. But when we look at these things that people say, if it is a bullying situation, that's why we always go back to this idea of transformative resiliency. What does it mean to be resilient? Being resilient means, hey, you're able to show up, and that, hey, whatever people throw at you, you don't have to necessarily throw something back. But part of the work that Be Strong is doing is a lot of things like our resilience curriculum. So an applicable tool that I'll give you is, if you go on our website, we have a resilient curriculum and a resilient guide, a resiliency guide. That in that guide, we actually go over different scenarios. Or if you go watch one of our Be Strong live tours, we go in depth with scenarios of, like, what do you do in this situation? For example, if somebody comes up to me and says, hey, Dennis, you're ugly. What they're looking for is a reaction out of me. So sometimes in situations like that, what we teach students to do is we teach students to diffuse the situations. Really? Why do you think so? I don't know, because you're ugly. Well, I don't think I'm ugly, but I think you're good looking. People are like, what? And we've gotten stories of, like, this actually works. Because again, people are just looking for a reaction out of you a lot of the times. People want a reaction. Yeah, but when you don't give them a reaction, and again, this is not always in every case. So if you don't give them a reaction, sometimes you'll see that people will just leave you alone. So the answer to that is, again, like I said, you can't stop bullying. You can't even prevent bullying. But the only things that you can help prevent is the effects that it has on you. And the way you prevent those effects is by learning some of these tools on resiliency, such as diffusing the situation, such as how to deal with difficult adults. What to do if somebody continues to make nasty comments about you. How do you diffuse those situations? So that's all things that we talk through, and again, I'll point you through my site. But I agree with you. I agree that we can't prevent bullying, we can't stop bullying, but we can stop the effects, and we can prevent some of the effects that it has on you through proper training and providing you with resources.
Great, thank you. How do I best prepare my child for a new school, meeting new people, and feeling confident?
Mm. Another good question. I think so. When we talk about preparation, so how do you prepare your child? That's a difficult one, to be honest with you. Um, what I would personally say is if your child is entering a new school, uh, and it also depends on, again, it also depends on the child. It depends what the child's like. If I think the one thing to do for your child is to show up, um, and don't always be the parent that's quick to always call the school. Uh, because sometimes you can, like we hear like the story all the time of one kid said something to another kid, and then the parent immediately went and called the teacher. What we see is that actually doesn't make it better for the child. So I think the one thing is it's consistently showing up with your child and looking for ways to connect with them. You know, uh, so maybe sometimes that can look like, hey, letting them go through their first day. You know, and getting them to understand that, hey, sometimes people won't get you. You know, sometimes people won't really understand you, and although you might have something that's visible, you have to understand underneath it all, every single person that has anything to say about you has something underneath their skin that they won't show, but it's there. So I think it's speaking to who your child is and preparing them for the fact that, hey, you're not going to be able to control what people say to you, but try to control how you respond. um, so that's the best advice I can give. um, and after the matter, again, I think it's showing up. I think it's and like I can say the reason why this issue is so complex is because we can continue to use statements like tell somebody, but like I was saying before, statistics show that 3 out of 4 students won't tell anybody. So as a parent, that's why the mission of Be Strong is we want students to know that our resources are available. And that's why we're a completely student-led organization, that we put the power at the hand of the student. So maybe what it is before the child goes to school, you go through our resilience curriculum with them. Maybe before the child goes through our, to school on their first day back, you go watch our Be Strong live tour. And then I believe that what happened from that experience is, one, they'll have some tools in their belt that they can use because they'll find themselves in some of these situations. And two, I believe that they'll begin to see themselves in a different light. And I believe how you see yourself is how you'll carry yourself into the world. And again, I go back to this, that you can't control what people do to you, but you can control how you respond. So the best way, in summary, is very applicable. I would go through our resilience curriculum with them right before school. And I really believe that if you go through that curriculum with them, they'll start to see themselves in a different light. And if they see themselves in a different light, you know, that doesn't mean that their problem will change, but their perspective could change. And that's the most important thing.
Thank you again, and I do hope everybody does visit the Be Strong site and uses the resources that you have there. Some of the resources that the foundation has, you can see listed in our chat room. In addition to the mentor program that I mentioned, there is a link also there for the Be Strong website. We have for teens, we have a teen chat and game night. And we have a link to register for that. And if your teen wants to talk to our teen leaders, Domingo No and Peter Donato, their emails are also on there. I want to thank you again, Dennis, for your time tonight. It's been really wonderful listening to you, and where were you and I needed you. I want to share some final thoughts tonight. First of all, if your question was not answered here or you think of it later, you can still submit it through our website at marfan.org/E3ask. Please be patient as we are getting very many questions. during the summit, and it may take longer than our Help and Resource Center to get back to you. Also, we'd very much like to have your feedback. Please complete the survey in the app so that we know what kind of programs you would like to see in the future. We hope you continue to take advantage of our sessions throughout the summit and take every opportunity to connect with other people through our app. We have many, many wonderful groups that are on there now, and please speak to and learn and share with everybody. If you share your experience that you've had today on social media, please use our hashtag, hashtag E3 Summit 20. And finally, if you would like to see more educational community programs like the summit, please go to our website and make a donation. Your support enables us to continue our life-saving work. This website is also on a PowerPoint, and we'll be posting it to the chat box for your convenience. Do you have any final comments, Dennis, that you would like to make?
Yes. One, I just want to thank everybody that tuned in. The very fact that you tuned in already shows me that, one, no one's going to care more about your child than you do. And the very fact that you are seeking out these resources and that you are seeking out this help says so much. And, as they continue to face adversity in life, the only thing that I can say is continue to show up to them, continue to show up for them, and always speak to who they could be. Because when you speak to who the person they could be, then they might actually become that. If you tell a child that they're not smart, or if you tell a child that they're a victim, if you tell a child that what they can't do, they'll believe you. But if you tell a child that they are resilient, if you speak to them and tell them that they're strong, then no matter what their situation looks like, if you speak to them and tell them that, hey, you are not different, but you are special, and that there's no one else like you. If you continue to show up for your child day in and day out, the only thing that I promise you will happen is that their perspective will change over time. And what we can I can guarantee almost every person would agree with that. Hey, we will never know what life will throw at us. It's sometimes it seems like when you get over one mountain, you'll have to get over another mountain. So that's why I always say this, that it's not about the storms you're going through, but it's learning how to dance in the rain. And also letting your child know this, that one person can't help everyone, but everyone can help one person. So maybe for that child, maybe you have to encourage them to find that one person that they're going to encourage. So it's actually very encouraging for me to be here today, and I think every single person that that reach out. If you need to reach out to me personally, you can always email me at dennis@bestrong.global. I'm a very easy man to find. And that's all for me. So thank you all for having me. I'm very honored. And I wish I could have answered all of your questions. But yeah, just thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I'm incredibly honored. I'm incredibly humble.
Thank you. And we are very honored to have you tonight and appreciate you sharing your time and your expertise with us. Thank you. And we will have more presentations from Dennis at other programs in the future. Thank you again. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you at other programs. Take care.
Good night.